This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Stephen Simcox, I'm Paul Catalina. Jack McKenzie is producing today. Please, just think about Garrett's wife had to have some dental work today, and it was more intensive than I think they had planned. So he had to text us. Yeah, she had so she's going to have a rough day, should be okay tomorrow, obviously. But one of those days where it's like, oh no, your day's going to suck. Like, I know you came in here uncomfortable, and I have worse news for you. So
I feel like nobody gets, I guess it's kind of their fault. Not really, but I feel like nobody gets a worse rep than the dentist.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, I know there are some more invasive procedures, but the lack of invasiveness with what happens when you go to the dentist, I think everybody dreads the dentist. I don't
care how good of a job they do. They suck. I do not care.
He's a rabid anti-dentite.
Their timing's always the worst. You think your funds are good. You think you don't have a lot going on. All of a sudden, you need 2 crowns.
Yeah. That's true.
I also, and this is a long-standing beef, so if I sound like Jim Cramer just repeating the same things over and over again, I'm sorry. But I do not understand in any way, shape, or form why health insurance does not cover vision and dental. Because, Stephen, if you walked in here tomorrow blind and toothless, I would not say you were at the peak of your health.
That's true, yeah.
I cannot see or chew solid food, But otherwise, my BP's good. So, I mean, like, I think it's kind of a silly and it's a scam that, like, you can't just be like, oh, yeah, here you go. And then the dentist is like, oh, yeah. No. I know that you can get a liver transplant, but we can't take that because of rules.
Yeah, I should have gotten braces when I was a kid, but that didn't happen. And so then, like, 3 or 4 years ago, I went to the dentist one time, and they mentioned it. And I was like, well, I mean, I'll listen to what the cost might be. And it wasn't the fault of the person at the front desk, but they were basically just like, yeah, here's what it would have been a couple of years ago when you were on your parents' insurance, but here's what it is now with your current plan. You really should have stayed on the old plan. And I was like, well, I didn't switch because I wanted to. It was just kind of like
Look, had they not figured out that I was over the age, believe me, we would all still be on it.
The clock just kind of ran out on me. But yeah, it was a very steep price, and I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to have to live with crooked teeth. That's going to be my thing.
Yeah. No, look, this whole reading glasses debacle that I have in my life did not end well when a very nice lady said, well, you're going to need cheaters. And I'm like, you need cheaters. She's like, yeah, I know. I was like, I'm sorry, that was immature, but I'm lashing out. And
she's like, I got it. I took care of it.
I'm fine. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm like, it's not that big of a deal to you. You've been in this state for a long time. I'm just finding out this information now. Like in the room next door, somebody's like, I'm sorry, you've got cataracts and I'm going to have to operate. And it's like, Paul, when you read things, you're going to have to put glasses on. And I'm like, oh, my life is terrible. How do you do this job? Well, I mean, that guy might be blind, but you know.
You're in there with the blind people like, man, I know how you feel.
Yeah. This is like, right? Am I right? Here, high five. I'll come over to you.
God gives the toughest battles to his strongest soldiers.
Yeah.
Me and you.
Yeah. Do you play the piano or something? Harmonica? Something cool?
Oh, man.
No. Yeah, they're oh, look at this. Jack, when somebody tells you how much do they need to donate, $7 million. No, just on the chat room.
I'm sorry. Do you mean $1 million?
Yeah, exactly. So, no, we're experimenting with some new software today, which hopefully will become permanent. The thing is, the only reason it's not permanent yet is this is the first day, so we have to work out all the kinks.
Right, all the bugs.
All the bugs, like what do we do differently with this one as opposed to the other one? What can we add before? Like when we launch this, we'd like to be able to launch it full tilt. As opposed to having to do it and then like it looking good later. So,
right.
So that's what the triple option is. It's a testing ground for a lot of things. For example, we would never on the main show spend time, what we call sponsor hunting. Now, Jack tells me he can't put up the graphic, but we're going to do a little sponsor hunting today. And just remember that today's show is brought to you for free by BidetKing.com. BidetKing.com.
The premier bidet provider.
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Yes. Are you in your 40s and still doing it the old-fashioned way? Stop being disgusting. BidetKing.com.
Did you get told on a recent date that you need to be more worldly?
BidetKing.com.
That's right.
Yeah.
Expand your horizons.
Have you always wanted to know how the Japanese seem so chipper and clean, but don't have the funds to go to Japan? BidetKing.com.
I can't wait till this multi-million-dollar sponsorship comes through for you, Paul.
Yeah.
I feel like it's happening.
Yeah. Look, I can just tell you, as a fan of the show Old Enough, which is on Netflix, which I recommend everyone watching, is a Japanese show. It's a long-running Japanese show, and Netflix has about 35 episodes of it.
Okay.
Spread across multiple years. It might just be a bit on another show, because they're never, longer than, 15 minutes. But what they do is they take a child who is very young, 2.5, 3 years old, and they give them money, and they send them out on a task and have them go buy things. And then those little 2-year-olds do it. They walk down the street. They have a little flag that they wave when they go across the street.
2-year-olds?
2-year-old. I'm not lying to you, Stephen. It's the most fascinating thing in the world. And it makes me think that we as Americans are even lazier than I thought previously. My bar was low.
Right.
And I watch these kids just walk out, and then they go in, and they, mind you, they're safe because there's a camera crew following them the whole time.
Right.
In disguise, so they don't see them. But there's a camera crew there following them throughout ways along the path. And they'll walk in and they'll be like, oh, I'll have these noodles and I want to get some flowers from my grandmother. They don't really say it like that. They just kind of grab the things. And then they have their little pouch and they open their pouch and they kind of hand the money to the cashier. Like, how much is this money? And then they count it out and give it back and put it in their little pouch. And then they walk back home.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't even let my 2-year-old in the front yard by himself.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I consider you to be an excellent parent, Stephen. But, I mean, that's part of that is just the confidence that you have in yourself to teach them that. But
they're just buying stuff.
And here's the thing. They give them money, and they go in the store, and they get exactly the thing. And then only like one other episode I saw did they get something extra. Like, oh, look, I got a little money. I'm going to go to the little thing here. And
they're not splurging.
They're not like, oh, well, I got this and this and this. I got this, fish, and I got this, flowers, and then I bought this ingredient, this fruit, and then, oh, look, I got some money. I'm going to get a candy bar. No, they just go right back.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The parents sit there like nervous the whole time.
I bet, yeah.
But
I would be too.
They like bawl when they come like, oh, I'm so proud of you. It's a really cool show. I highly recommend it. So Bracket Cat. Well, I don't know if Jack knows this reference, but Bracket Cat says, Jack, when someone asks if you're a god, you say yes, which is a line from Ghostbusters.
Yes, I get that reference.
Okay, all right.
There you go.
Not completely uncultured.
Yeah.
Jack didn't know who No Doubt was.
No, he did not. That's why I had no fit. Like, Ghostbusters was way before No Doubt. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he didn't know who No Doubt was. You know who Gwen Stefani is?
Yes.
That's why she's famous.
That's right.
Yeah, well, guess what? She's famous and No Doubt isn't.
Well, I mean, No Doubt, like, there would be no one without the other. So
that's true. Paul, can I ask you what's currently happening with Ghostbusters? Because I see children in don't understand.
So that they did a movie, and those are Egon Spangler's grandchildren, because he's not currently alive.
Okay.
Harold Ramis has passed, unfortunately. So the last one was good. I've not seen the newest one, Frozen Empire, yet. I will see it because I love the Ghostbusters. And even if the movie kind of sucks, I'll probably like it more than most because I enjoy the Ghostbusters. Yeah. And I like Bill Murray, and I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, and I've watched most everything that Bill Murray's been in. He's been in some great stuff. He's been in some total crap, and I think he would tell you that. But I will tell you this: he's good in all of it. So
he is great.
Yeah, like sometimes like people do good and bad things, but they're always good. Mm-hmm. I would put Paul Giamatti in this category as well. Like, Paul Giamatti's never taken a day off on any project he's done. He's absolutely fantastic, but some of it's like, well,
it's not very good, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's good in it.
He's doing
his thing.
He's doing his thing,
He's a guy averaging 20 points a game on the Charlotte Hornets.
It's not like Mickey Rourke. Like, Mickey Rourke is either fantastic in something where you can't believe that somebody has this talent, or he's just there.
Where would Adam Sandler fall on that list?
Oh, I think Adam Sandler brings it every time.
Okay.
I just think that, like, sometimes, his group, he's now started to branch outside his own group a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, like, that makes stuff better. But, like, if you do too much stuff with your own team, sometimes I think this is funny only to you. Mm-hmm. I get that. But
yeah.
I'm never going to talk trash about the Sandman, ever. All right. Someone we can talk trash about real quick is Jontay Porter, who has now been banned for the life of the NBA. And we don't really talk about the NBA that much on this show, but Stephen, you're a big NBA guy.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to talk about this in the context of the NBA because I don't think that that's the full scope of the story. I think there's two sides to the sports gambling explosion that we're having. I believe it should be legal and regulated everywhere, and it's about to be, because people are going to make money on it. But we have to make sure that it's super regulated so that stuff like Jontay Porter doesn't happen more frequently. Now, look, the good news on Jontay Porter is he did it like maybe the stupidest way that you can do it, and got caught really quickly. And the good news is that those things get caught. And when you do these things, here's the because we had the Boston College scandal like back in the 80s that Henry Hill from Goodfellas was involved in. Like all of those things have happened. Timmy Donaghy's happened. Pete Rose has happened. All those things have happened. But now there are safeguards in place to ensure that if everything is above board and gambling is legal, you can catch these things a lot better. And people who are going to do illegal, under the table, dirty things anyway aren't going to care. Like that's one of the things that people like forget about laws. They're like, oh, well, this law will prevent this. Like, well, no. If you were already going to like compromise your way all the way down, you're probably not going to prevent this person from breaking that law.
Yeah.
But you can punish them for it better. That's the difference. And so, but I do think this is like a good news, bad news situation. Bad news in that these things are probably going to happen a little bit. You know, we saw it with, Calvin Ridley made the mistake. Keyshawn Butte's in trouble right now. And then Jontay Porter, Iowa State had the problem. And that was very small potatoes compared to what Jontay Porter did. Right. But there are, of course, the Ohtani translator situation. But it seems like these things are getting caught. So I'm not as worried about it as I would have been, say just 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. It does feel that way. I mean, I think when we talk about, my podcast, I do FanDuel reads every day.
Yeah.
They're a big sponsor of the Locked On Network. Mm-hmm. It's more and more prevalent. It, as you said recently, like in the past 5 or 6 years, all of a sudden College Game Day is doing an, Superdog segment, and just about any sports show you watch has some sort of betting segment or betting advice, an analyst that's giving you picks. I think when we talk about Jontay, though, this was such a blatant and dumb thing. I mean, the Cliff Notes version, he was betting on himself in a lot of cases in over-under situations. And so in one game in particular, like his over-under was 7 points. He took a 3 early in the game, missed it, I assume on purpose, and then took himself out of the ball game with what he said was a stomach bug. And there were, 2 or 3 other games.
And the thing is, the stomach bug is like, hey, I've got a problem. I need to leave.
Right.
What are you going to tell him? No.
Yeah.
No, please go out there. We don't believe you. We dare you to prove it. They're on the floor.
And it was clearly like one person. Yes. Mm-hmm. The Raptors weren't involved with this. He was giving bettors insider information, but and we saw this with the Alabama baseball coach last year, where he's giving, handicappers news on the fact that he's going to scratch a pitcher like 2 minutes before the Alabama LSU game. Like, these things are getting caught. They're pretty obvious. They're pretty dumb. And I don't have any sympathy for that. I can see college kids, even though I still think it's wrong, like betting on college sports and not really understanding, if they're not betting on themselves, that this is a bad thing and they shouldn't be doing it. But I feel like by and large, there's going to be a separation here, but a crazy story. And it is wild to see, like, I understand it. I think it's probably right. And ultimately it's not going to be a big deal because Jontay Porter was just a random player for the Raptors. Mm-hmm. But it is kind of crazy that they immediately just said, nope, lifetime ban. Like, you don't get to play NBA basketball in any capacity ever again. But I mean, those are the types of measures they're going to have to take to discourage these things, so it doesn't become a big problem, because it's not just media enterprises, Paul. Like, leagues themselves are in bed now with these gambling companies, so they have to keep it above board as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So they do. But I do think that, like, the news may not be as dire as people freak out about. Mm-hmm. Like, this is going to be a freak out story. We've always had one freak out story this week, which is Caitlin Clark and her salary compared to Victor Wembanyama. Mm-hmm. Look, here's the thing. Yes, she doesn't get paid enough. None of them in the WNBA get paid enough, but they're blaming the wrong people. This is blame shifting of the highest order, in that, like, oh, well, the men control these things and they could give more money. Like, yeah, they could if you spent it. Running a business here. So yeah. I understand that they're, like, people who own things are, mostly big, gigantic corporate titans, but also, Red Lobster's in trouble. They're not getting bailed out by anybody. So let's have some perspective.
If people are upset about it, I would just say watch the WNBA. Like, invest in it. Go to a game.
Buy jerseys. Watch it on TV. Go,
right.
Yeah.
Like, if that's the only way it's going to change. And yeah, the NBA could revenue share more, but I mean, to be kind of blunt about it, they're sort of subsidizing the league as it is. So it's not. Yes. Is it a problem? Sure. Does Caitlin Clark deserve more than that? Yeah, but she also has endorsement opportunities, and she's getting like she's not the person you should worry about. You should worry about the 10th or 11th player on the Atlanta Dream roster.
As opposed to like the 10th or 11th player on the Hawks.
Yes.
He's fine.
Right.
He's all right.
Right. Even guys in the G League that are back and forth are probably doing okay.
Yeah.
There's a number of players in the WNBA that are, they are kind of going paycheck to paycheck, but you got to support the league to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. It is transfer portal time, Stephen.
All right.
And so for the next segment, let's just go. We'll spend a lot of time on portal, both in college football and college basketball. And then after that, I'm going to leave a little bit more time because I have an extended Cowboys rant I need to go on. And I would like you to join me in this because I feel like we are going to be in the same spot.
Okay.
Because it's become apparent to me that the Jones family's way of doing things has become too formulaic, and they kind of have a policy that they like blanket approach everything with, and the organizations that continue to win, like they're like, yeah, this is the way we like to do it, but like, for Patrick Mahomes, we're gonna make sure that this works. We're gonna give him a little bit more, leeway than we would this other guy, and so the salary cap's been in effect for over 20 years now. And the Cowboys have never figured it out. They are still they're afraid of it. They don't like it. They like to push, they think they have this deadlines make deals thing. We'll get into it later. But in the next segment, we're going to go portal. And some of the news, Stephen, a TCU player, has jumped in one of their best defensive players. It has not been the shock wave of things that people expected. And that doesn't mean that it couldn't be that way, but I still don't think it's going to be like what was predicted by many pundits. Like, I'm hearing this could be big. This could be big. Now, that could be a lot of players throwing that out there so that, hey, there's going to be a lot. And then their collective comes in to make sure that you're not going to the portal, right? Like, I don't know if I am or not. You tell me. It would be a lot easier for me to have, $10,000 more in this hand. Then probably I'm not going to the portal. But if I don't, then
I might have a decision to make.
I don't know. You guys talk about it amongst yourselves. I'll be over here. So anyway, when we come back, portal. This is the triple option brought to you for free today. But hopefully I become their national spokesman by BidetKing.com. Be more awesome like BidetKing.com. This is the triple option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Before we start, Stephen, I realize that I get I'm very prone to like excessively stating my opinion about certain things because it is my job. but I do this in my regular life too. And one of the things is that if you're an Italian restaurant that sucks, like I am not going to let people like go there. I'm not going to publicly slander anybody. That's wrong.
Sure.
But I will privately tell people that, listen, there's a place here in town that has a very like stereotypical like Italian sign out front. And I should have known it was going to be awful. And it was really terrible. Like they served frozen meatballs. It was, I mean, very clearly meatballs they did not make. The sauce was very clearly out of a jar. And they're just, betting on people who've never had real Italian food to be like, oh man, that place is great. Which I understand. If you didn't know, you wouldn't know. There's also Mexican places like that in this town because there's so many Mexican restaurants. So like, yeah, we can just,
blend in,
and nobody will know. And then they'll go to another one and be like, oh my gosh, this is so much better than that other place we went to. How are they getting away with this? Well, people don't know.
They're just getting their habits.
But my friends were trying to get together for lunch on Monday because we have a guy in town that hasn't been here in a while. And so they constantly like to make fun of me and say, like, this is the restaurant we're going to go to. I'm like, well, you guys will be eating without me because I'm not setting foot in that place again. Because as an Italian, I felt attacked.
Do you just, like, unprompted, will you bring it up? Or is
no.
it if somebody's I want to go here?
No, they said it like, oh, hey, we try that place. Like, no, you're not going to try that place. I'm not going to let you go in there and give them money. I'm not going to do it. It's not a chance that that's going to happen. If you see, like, and I'll tell you, if you see any place at all, and really Italians are the only people who get this anymore, which is kind of a punishment for us, like, hiding during the latter portions of the civil rights movement. But when it was, we used to be part of that. And then, like, eventually, like, people stopped noticing that Italian skin was darker. And we were like, yeah, those people are bad. Please leave us alone. We're on your side now. You didn't even notice, did you?
Just walking over.
That's just kind of what happened. So, but if you see like a stereotypical thing with like a guy with like a long mustache who was saying like a pizza pie, like that's not a place you should go to. Because you wouldn't see that for any other type of restaurant.
Right.
Like it would be like a literal protest outside of it. And then, but the sacrifice that, the two generations before us made was like, oh, we're not going to help out with this at all. So now we get punished. I'm fine with it. It's okay. We've earned it as Italians. So anyway, portal. The basketball portal is and the football portal going at the same time is very interesting to me because it's just like all these things going on and moving around. But football opened yesterday, Stephen, and, Cormani McClain was a big deal because he was such a highly ranked prospect and really one of the few super highly ranked high school prospects that Deion really went after. I mean, most of their team is transfer portal. That's, high school class. He's kind of made it a point that, like, I'm only going whale hunting for high school talent. The rest I'm going to do in the portal. Yeah. And best of luck to him doing that. Colorado's been so bad that, he really has had nowhere to go but up. But eventually he's going to have to start finding out that balance. But Cormani McClain, people thought this is the next Travis Hunter. This is, it's going to be why would you not want to go play for Deion if you're the number one cornerback in the country? And it wasn't a match, mostly because Cormani McClain, according to Deion Sanders, didn't want to work all that hard and do those little extra things. And I do think, like, some of this also, and this is not Deion's fault, but Deion had the character back in the day that was his outward thing of, like, prime time. So, like, if you think about it, like, this, like, Batman is the guy he is on the field. Bruce Wayne was the guy he was on television, right? And so you see, like, he had this kind of alter ego to him. And I think kids see that from way back when, like, oh, I want to be that, like, Primetime was cool, man. Like, that was the coolest dude ever. He was just, he had the drip. He had everything, like, everything I want to be. But went behind that is that what people know about Deion is he was the hardest worker on the team. He was a great teammate, like all these other things. So you can think about his personality, whatever you want to think about it. Like, that's your opinion. But, like, those are the things that you don't quite realize. Kind of like, athletes that are successful as him, the Deion Sanders, the Michael Jordans, the Tiger Woods of the world. Like, they are insanely hard workers, and they believe in working at their craft really hard. So if you can't match that energy, the whole little facade of, like, the cool guy stuff doesn't matter. And I think maybe that's what, like, a guy like Cormani McClain saw, and then Deion's like, hey, you got to watch film. You got to show up these things early. You got to do all these things. And he's like, oh, I was under the impression that you didn't do that. When you now I feel that I'm wrong.
No, that's a good point. I mean, you have to earn the title of being big personality guy or just guy that's not going to, do necessarily all the little things that everyone else does. And Deion hasn't shied away from that. He publicly talked about it. He flipped Cormani from Miami, right? That was the late in that process. So it is intriguing. Another thing that I find, and I mean, I'll give Deion credit. Like, they turned that thing around last year. Now, granted, as you said, they were so bad. They had room to improve for sure. But he's asking, I guess you could see this as player empowerment. But offensive players that are looking to transfer are supposed to DM his son, Shadur Sanders.
Yes.
Defensive players are supposed to DM Shiloh Sanders. Like, Paul, is this just another off the beaten path thing, or is this ultimate flag football dad who took over a college program?
I mean, that's
behavior.
That's a great question, Stephen. That is a fantastic question. Because, look, Shiloh and Shadur are doing this. That's kind of cool, right? Like, DM me like that, but, like, also, not your job. Like, like, I know it probably seems cool to do that, but there's people in place that have to do that, and they're trying to trade on their name. The problem is that next year Shadur and Shiloh are both gone. They're not going to be there. Yeah. So that's the other decision you have to make. And, yeah, they're trying to get better. Colorado has 10 guys on the way out as of this morning. I haven't even checked in the last hour since right before we started the show. So they already had 10 guys out in the first day and change. So, yeah, they're trying to remake the roster. They're trying to do it in a way that has never been really available to people before in, like, this holistic of a way. So, yeah, it is weird. Like, and again, he's not going to have that forever. So, might as well use it while you can. But Colorado's got to figure out how to build this roster sustainably, and the transfer portal is not that.
No, and you think about key positions. I mean, they sort of eventually got exposed a little bit. They kind of cobbled together an offensive line last year that at least was serviceable at times. But they're redoing that. And, I mean, Deion basically said it early in the season when they were struggling. He was like, we got to get different players. Like, we have to get different players up front. And I understand the temptation to want to do that. But typically in college football, having continuity specifically at that spot in that room with guys that are working together in concert is the best way to go. He's also done everything else in a non-typical way. I guess if he's having people reach out to his sons and it's just kind of like, I'm giving them a little bit of responsibility, they can tell these people that are reaching out, hey, here's what we're about at Colorado. They're ultimately not making the decisions. They're just kind of like a go-between, and that makes sense. It just also kind of feeds in the idea of when they move on, like when Shadur moves on to the draft, what's Deion's next move? Is this just like a experiment for him to be really close with his kids, like all the way through this process?
Yeah.
Or does he really want to be, the next Nick Saban type in college football? Not that he is that, but that's his dream and aspiration.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's going to be able to do things differently because he's Deion Sanders, but this is, maybe not the best, way to do it. And again, they'll figure that out eventually. So, I'm trying to look here in the transfer portal. So nothing has changed much as far as the big players, although Deion Hayes, a 6'3", 250 defensive end from Pitt, entered the transfer portal, and he is currently the fourth best available player according to On3.com. And so, but if you look at where these guys are and how much they've played. You sent me a tweet earlier, and I'd seen that, Stephen, but from Bud Elliott, and I think this bears talking about when you get he said a handy guide to deciphering tweets about the transfer portal. If they highlight a guy's career stats and not the stats from his most recent season, high chance he's an accumulator and not an impact player. Watch out for snap count, which included special teams, as opposed to snaps played on defense or offense. Same goes for games played as opposed to games started.
Yeah.
If they highlight his high school rating and he's been out of high school for 2 years, good chance he's a bust at that level. Mm-hmm. If they mention a player was preseason all-conference pick and don't say anything about what he did in that season, chances are he got hurt or he sucked. And if a player has had flashes of production and is about to be on his third or fourth school, good chance he's a huge pain in the ass off the field and coaches are tired of his act. And I miss any add yours. And Brandon Marcello added, transferred in January, barely heard his name at the new school in the offseason, and re-entered the portal in April, hoping to capitalize again on the December portal buzz, which we've seen several guys, Penny Boone, Raymond Cottrell, there's a lineman from A&M whose name escapes me right now, and clearly it escaped the A&M coaches as well because he's leaving there. So, there's several of those guys too.
There are. I mean, you have to be careful about, I saw today there's a Florida State player who was at UCF. He's basically been at 3 schools in 3 semesters or is working towards that now. You have guys that get to the spring and then they wash out. I feel like one interesting nugget too is 4- and 5-star players. It's kind of like first-round draft picks in the NFL. Like our former colleague Q used to tell us, first-round draft picks, like you'll always see a former first-round guy get signed in October, maybe to a practice squad or something, because NFL GMs are just kind of obsessed with the idea of like, I can be the one that fixes this person.
Yeah.
I know they have the potential, like they have the measurables. We'll find a spot for them. And it's kind of like that in college now too. You have guys that are highly rated and if they wash out somewhere, it's like, all right, well, maybe let's take a chance on this player and we'll be the one that finds a good balance for them to be at. But there's so much talent, but there's also so many players that you have to sift through and find. It is really a delicate balance of, what does this messaging actually mean? And if this person is on school 3 or 4, like, why is that? Why can't they find a role? Or, is it off the field issues, off the field personality that's hurting them greatly? And from a Big 12 angle, Paul, one guy that hit the portal this kind of before we went on, Dominic Williams from TCU, defensive tackle, who started every game the last 2 seasons for the Frogs as freshman and sophomore. He's originally from California, so I think USC will be a factor here. Yeah. I also saw some SEC schools are involved. But interior defensive linemen are kind of like, there's a good market for them. And so a lot of those guys are testing their value and kind of seeing, okay, can I get paid more elsewhere because everybody needs big bodies, in the middle to make your defense work.
Yeah, they absolutely do. They absolutely do. And so, also defensive tackle is going to be the spot for guys to be able to do it. Look, Walter Nolan's already moved, to Ole Miss. And I'm sure he got the bag to do it. He was the most sought after player in the portal. Well, he would have been if he hadn't been like, these are the 3 places I'll consider. But yeah. He was the most sought after player in the country in 2022. Another interesting note is that A&M 2022 class is
just kaput.
Yeah. It's just, what a, and guess what? I think they're going to be better off for it. Yeah, I think they'll win more games. I don't know if they're going to win the conference anytime soon, but they'll be more disciplined and better and have more worker bees and have more of the true wrecking crew, old school A&M identity under Mike Elko, the way they're going to do it here for the next couple of years than they would in the past.
They're the cautionary tale for, yes, every decision now is based on money in some form or fashion. That's true for a lot of professions around the world. But if you just go get the top, 10 of the top 25 players in the recruiting class just because you can throw crazy numbers out there and you don't really consider what they're like, how they're going to fit in the locker room, then it can become a total implosion. None of those guys have really hit yet. Nolan will have a good chance to, but just a crazy confluence of events with all those players and really missing on pretty much all of them.
Yeah. They missed. There's going to be some guys from that class that'll help them. They've got a running back who's going to start for them this year and be pretty darn good. So they'll they'll have that, but like again, at the end of the day, like this was all bad for them. Like it just did not turn out like and I do think like part of the thing that's interesting to me is like this, like in their minds, this proves that they can do that kind of a thing, but can you do it and maintain it?
Right.
And also here's another thing: Michigan proved that you don't have to have top 5 classes to win the national title. You have to have really good players who fit your system and you develop well, and then you cherry pick from the portal to get what you need, which they did on the offensive line. Mm-hmm. So, and if you're an offensive lineman, why would you not want to go play at Michigan? Like it's one of those things where, all right, well, we're going to get probably of the best 7 guys available. If we need 3 of them, we'll get 3 of those 7 because it was a proven track record of like, oh, look, these guys are getting drafted. This is how you show the NFL, like, yeah, we're going to have an NFL blocking scheme and knock people around.
Well, and one of their new team captains is Torian York, who's a pretty undervalued linebacker from Central Texas who just ended up being a great player. And so that's not to say, like, obviously you need talent. You have to go after highly sought after, highly ranked players, but you also have to have an idea of roster construction and personality meshing, and all those things still make a huge difference, even in the world that we're living in now where the highest bidder can win a lot of these battles.
Yeah. Absolutely. Stephen, let's talk a little basketball portal right now. This has been nothing quite has happened monumental yet as far as the basketball portal. And there's, there's like the whole Kentucky roster is about to be in there, essentially. John Calipari is going to try to get as many of those guys in, but we already got Hunter Dickinson trying to get Jeremy Roach from Duke, like all those things happening, and that would be huge. But Cincinnati lost Victor Locken to Clemson. Clemson, who made that great run this year into the tournament. Yeah. But yeah, like Kentucky, Arkansas, St. John's are the leaders right now for Jeremy Roach. And we've already seen Kansas add people. We'll see who else is in there that's interesting to me. Houston did lose somebody. They lost guard Damian Dunn to Pitt, but for the most part, they've kept that roster together, and they'll probably go add somebody that's going to be a stud.
Yeah, and I mean, Houston feels like the type of place where the culture and the buy-in is pretty high. Like, not that they're going to have – I mean, they're going to have some deflections like everyone does, but that core group, I'm sure, is well taken care of, and they also just believe in what Kelvin Sampson's doing. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see what Kansas continues to add because they went heavy portal last year and didn't really fill out their depth well. It came back to bite them.
Well, they had 3 less scholarships. They took the penalty last year.
Yeah, that too. But
Arteria Morris was not helping. Right.
That roster didn't end up coming together like they thought, and so I know they're trying to revamp and get that to a good place. Basketball is – I mean, everyone's living in this world now, but I think just the idea of having that unlimited freedom is so crucial in basketball because you have to have – guys, especially around your star, to make this work. And these role players and kind of second options have a lot of leverage in just testing the market and finding out where they can fit. But places like Houston, they are able to kind of keep things in-house for the most part.
Yeah. Texas is a very interesting tale here where that was a team that had higher expectations with the roster that they built. Mm-hmm. Brock Cunningham's finally going to be gone, and that's a blessing for Texas and the Big 12. I think that he, as much as you may admire it if he's on your team, come on,
the bit was tired.
Yeah, it's over, and the fact that you're if I'm Rodney Terry, I'd be furious at him every time. You can't the first time you did it, we were winning the game, so it's not a big deal. And then there were 3 other games you did and that you lost, so. Mm-hmm. What are we talking about here, man? You're not helping. They're not, Dylan Mitchell out, and he underperformed quite a bit. Tyrese Hunter played okay, but he just wasn't a fit for what they want to do. And they've already brought in some guys. They've already got in Julian Larry, who's Frisco, Texas, Jason Kent, and Tremont Mark, who was at Arkansas and Houston previously. So they've filled the spots on the roster. And Dylan Mitchell's from Tampa. I don't know what that means. He could have gone pretty much anywhere he wanted to. So being from Tampa, I don't think that that means anything for him. Right. But there will be plenty of people trying to, be the one who gets the most out of Dylan Mitchell. He was just a freshman last year. So, but Texas is in a weird spot for sure.
Big prove it year for Rodney. I mean, I think it's always tough when you're the guy that kind of rallies the team in a crisis like he did. And understandably, I mean, they gave him the opportunity to run the ship. It didn't go as planned last year, even though they kind of turned it around towards the end of the season. But you also wonder, I'm sure there's enough to go around there, but if you start not putting up stellar results, how much does that affect your resources when it comes to NIL and adding talent and that type of thing? I think this is another chance to prove, okay, we can be competitive, we can be a force, in the SEC and beyond. But they desperately need a bounce back year and really a face of that program too, because Brock Cunningham is not the guy that you want kind of leading the charge in that regard.
The thing is that when you have other guys like Max Asmus, that should be the face.
Yeah.
But he gets blocked when
he gets overshadowed.
You got a guy,
doing WWE heel stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Feels like when he gets kicked out, he wants to grab the mic. It's like the Brock says, I will return.
It's not Monday Night Raw. It's a Tuesday night game against Cincinnati. Let's just win and get out of here.
You and me, Scott Drew. I will see you at the Royal Rumble in Atlantic City on October 9th.
Only one will leave. Scott thinks he's talking about a prayer meeting or something.
What? Yeah, I think I would think of a lot of the guys that just got trucked by Brock Cunningham was I was talking trash, but whoa.
That really escalated quickly.
I mean, damn, dude. Not cool.
I thought we were just kind of having fun.
Yeah. And then Rodney Terry's just he gets worked up. Yeah. You think? You think? To, throw a guy out of bounds when you're up by 20?
Yeah. That's not going to hold up in court.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. When we come back, Stephen and I participate in a Cowboys rant together. It's going to flow. It's going to be dynamic. It's going to be one of those kind of, from my world, the improv things. We're going to say yes and a lot, and we're just going to go because it has gotten to critical mass. I've just had it. And look, they've won 12 games 3 years in a row. So we can't be that spoiled, but that's not what we're here for. That's not what we're here for. We're not here for that.
No, we're not.
This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports, brought to you today by BidetKing.com. Don't be a stick in the mud. BidetKing.com.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back to the Triple Option. Paul Catalina, Stephen Simcox, Locked On Porn Frogs, and Jack McKenzie of Disapproving Producers Guild.
So is now when I tell him that I had his mic muted for those first 5 seconds?
Oh, really?
Oh, man.
That was on accident. My bad.
There we go. Jack McKenzie, Disapproving Producer. which is most, Stephen, you've been a producer before.
Yeah.
And so so have I. There's a nice symbiosis between a good show where the host and producers get along. Mm-hmm. But even the most wonderful symbiotic relationship, the producer disapproves of at least 20% of what's going on.
They just have different goals. You know?
Yeah.
Like the producer is trying to make sure technical stuff is going okay, make sure the show's running how it should.
Make sure he looks good.
Yeah.
But he decides to, I don't know, just sit up there ad-libbing commercials for people that aren't paying us money.
Yet.
He's recruiting.
It's
a college football show.
Yeah,
They're just going to hop in the portal right away.
We're in the portal
We're
now.
sign up for 1 year. They'll be gone before they even play.
Paul is at Bidet King's house.
Yeah.
He's been talking to mom.
Yeah.
He's met with Bidet King's high school coach. Yeah. You know, there are other shows are involved, but Scrappy, Triple Option, they're in the mix because of that good relationship they have.
Exactly. I've been there. I believe in them. You know what? Here's another quick ad. Are you concerned about your home's personal transfer portal? Well, don't be with bidetking.com.
Oh, should I have not muted him there? Sorry, Paul.
Yeah. But yes, I digress. So that's where Jack is in the disapproving producers guild, which is essentially
it's a rite of passage.
It's a rite of passage. Again, it wouldn't, but also most of these things wouldn't work if you just had a yes man over there. Do whatever you want, man. I'm just here. Happy to be here.
Happy to press buttons.
No. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about that.
We'll figure that out later.
We'll figure that out.
Y'all just do your thing. I'm just here to be supportive.
Yeah. A family member one time had recommended like a Netflix show to me because it was about like a radio station, and I got like 10 minutes into the first episode, and there was these guys who were trying to move from like their night shift into like the afternoon drive, and the program director was like, "You guys don't read the ads," and then I'm like, "There's not a radio host in America that if you told them, given especially how we're paid, like, hey, you're going to make more money if you read these ads, we'll be like, all right, puppymill.com. Do you not care about humane treatment of dogs? puppymill.com. So again, that's like, especially late night radio. You
do whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. You know why support Kim Jong-un for president? No.
You crawl across broken glass for any ad you can get.
Because, again, in that medium, at that time of night in most local places, you're not making any money.
No, you'd probably do better working at Sonic. Yeah. I've heard tips can be good. You're a good car hop.
Did somebody just give you the change from their thing? Just let you keep that? That's a pretty awesome gig.
I guess I need to wear roller skates, too.
Does that happen all the time? Like every person? Whoa.
You just get to keep it? That's crazy.
You don't have to, you just get to put that there? All those pennies and nickels? Oh, wow.
Speaking of wanting any sponsor possible, BidetKing.com.
I actually do, and I made these jokes. I truly believe in their mission.
Yeah, you do.
I do. I truly believe in it.
It's a personal thing for you.
It is. It's deeply personal to me. It's one of those things you find out. I watch a lot of comedy news shows, like Last Week Tonight and Daily Show. And Last Week Tonight's really good at pointing out here's why this thing doesn't work. And it's usually because, idiots on both sides of the aisle have done idiot things. And then I'm like, well, I'm mad about that thing. And I'm just mad about why, the reason that we don't have this in America is paper, keeps us from, they lobby for things. So
yeah.
No, you need paper. More paper. Kill trees. You're fine. So anyway, speaking of something that stinks and is terrible, the Cowboys and the way that they're conducting business. Stephen, there are 31 other teams in the league. Mm-hmm. Now look, the Cowboys are run solidly in the middle. They're not the worst run team in the league.
No.
They're clearly not the best. They do some things really, really well, but the things they don't do well, they do so poorly. So poorly. Look, they're not the Browns. They're, look, the Bengals have kind of lucked into Joe Burrow. Right. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about how exciting it is to be the Bengals right now. But
there's a long list of inept teams that have made it further in the playoffs than they have in the past 2 decades.
Yeah. look, the Chargers are not a well-run organization. We'll see if Jim Harbaugh can help them with that, but they're really not. But they've also made it further in the playoffs than the Cowboys have,
right,
with Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson, in the very recent past. So all of those things, like the Rams, were not well run for a long time, and then they hired the right people. Stan Kroenke just stays out of it and throws money at things and gets sued, but he just throws money at things, and that's okay, how much do you need? What are we doing here? Here's the budget. All right. In fact, the salary cap works for a guy like Stan Kroenke because he can just be like, well, I know they're not just going to come to me one day and be like, oh yeah, by the way,
here's a bill.
We spent way more than we budgeted for this. Well, you can't because there's a salary cap. Yeah. So, but the Cowboys are so afraid of the salary cap, and they have not figured it out. And part of that is I don't think that's Jerry. I think that's Stephen.
Oh, me too.
Because I think that if you would just like right now, especially with the salary cap being as high as it is, and teams like the Rams throwing caution to the wind or whoever it is, if you let old Jerry, not old Jerry, he's old Jerry now, but previous young Jerry, if you let young Jerry loose on the way that things work now in the NFL, the Cowboys might be better. Honestly, they might. But Stephen, and had to work to rein Jerry in because he was just I'll
write any check. Yeah.
Boom, 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 and then the salary cap hits and they were kind of screwed. They weren't ready for it. But they're so afraid of it. And they get in this thing, they have this idea that deadlines make deals. Yeah, sure. But we've seen them go down the road with Des Bryant, with Zeke Elliott. And part of the thing is they did this with Emmitt Smith. And they see that as a win for themselves because Emmitt Smith sat out 2 games. 2 games they lost.
Yeah.
They came back and they won the Super Bowl. So to them, in their minds, they have the wrong view of that. Their view is we won with Emmitt. No, you didn't. You didn't. You lost that.
Emmitt just decided to go back with his teammates.
Yeah. Emmitt, you made the deal because you were now painted into a corner of you see, you need me.
Yeah.
This is important. I'm the MVP, best player in the league right now, right here, most important. And he got the deal he got, so it did also help that Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin and, guys were going to the office going, hey,
we need this guy.
Let's stop messing around.
Get it done.
Yeah. So they went and they got it done. They tried to do it with Zeke. Zeke wound up not having a very good year after that because, again, Emmitt is different. He's unique. There's not just the all-time leading rusher doesn't just come on a factory line like a Barbie doll or something.
Right.
It's not how it works. And they have these things that they're referencing in the past too much. They've got to live in the now, and they're so afraid of it. There should not be any with Micah. They can wait a little bit. They've got a little more time on that, and Micah knows that. But with Dak and CeeDee Lamb, those contracts should be done. If Devontae Smith can get done in a week, how come the Cowboys can't get CeeDee Lamb done in a week?
Yeah, stop alienating your best players in the name of being a hardline businessman.
Yeah, and look, I get that you want to look with Dak tough with Dak because he hasn't won the playoffs yet, but that's not really all Dak's fault. Part of it is you because you get to this point where you're negotiating down to the wire with Dak to get out of salary cap hell, as opposed to just doing this in good faith all the time.
Right.
So, they screwed it. They could have given Dak an extension the year before they gave him the one they did, and they didn't. For no reason other than this is the way we do things. Look, if he's your guy, make him your guy, and then start building after that and functionally be able to move around. They just have the worst sense of timing, and they've got to change what they're doing because in no way should they be in a situation where a week before the draft, they don't have a left tackle and a center and a running back because of salary cap.
Well, and the thing that kills me is they're so smug about it, too. They act like, oh, we're not going to be the team that just spins like crazy. Well, nobody is because that's not how it works anymore. And you're not the Patriots of old. You're not the Steelers. You're not an organization that has consistently proven to be right when you kind of bet on yourself as opposed to the player that you're letting walk or something like that. You need to fill these roster spots. And you're coming off a season where you just got destroyed by Green Bay in the playoffs when you had what seemed to be a pretty feasible path to at least the NFC title game. You would have been hosting, probably a game against Detroit, and you couldn't find a way to win that ball game. Like, stop acting like you're the smartest people in the room when you haven't won anything, and stop unnecessarily, hindering your relationships with your best players because you're trying to act like, well, we're the team that draws the line. We really make you work for your contracts. No, you don't. You're going to fold. You're going to fold on the CD thing like you always do. It's just a matter of waiting it out. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. And they've got to get to a point where they're just refreshing. Like you just click refresh on the roster as opposed to, all right, we had this really good roster. It failed, to get us where we were going to go. And, part of it also is they're like, we love our guys, which is great. Like, they draft pretty well.
Yes, they do.
They're in the top tier of teams that draft. Like, they really are. They're not in the top of that, but they're like, Will McClay is really good.
They have a good track record of finding, to their credit, in like budget barrel free agency and drafting, they find gems.
Yeah.
Like, they find legitimate starters in places that a lot of teams don't.
Yeah. They're really terrible in the fourth round outside of Dak Prescott, though, but historically. Yeah. But other than that, like, they've found guys in every round that have helped them out over the years. But the other thing is that, and I'm like, okay, they're going to send Michael Gallup out the door because he's out the door because he didn't, really heal right and he wasn't the Michael Gallup of old. And it sucks. And everybody loves Michael Gallup because he's the ultimate teammate. And when he was healthy, he was pretty awesome. Like, he was really good. And it was a great compliment to CeeDee Lamb. And really, they only need to get like a legit third wide receiver and develop a tight end, which they've done. Jake Ferguson, third-round pick or whatever he was. Right. Like, they found that. Terrence Williams was a third-round pick. Michael Gallup was a third-round pick. They found a guy. Jason Witten, for God's sakes, was a third-round pick. Now, that was Bill Parcells, but I digress. They've done really well with that. But then, like, when Michael Gallup tears his knee up, you don't give him a 3-year contract. You can give him a 1-year contract and see how it goes, maybe with an option year for the next year, but don't give him a 3-year contract because your doctor says he's good. Also, I think their doctor is telling them, like, oh, how's the surgery? Oh, I did that surgery. I'm the best, right? It was awesome. I got in there. Like, you wouldn't even know if there wasn't a scar on his skin. I took care of that thing. Like, it's like it never even happened.
Yeah.
And that's great, but and he might be right. But again, you're playing football, a sport where inevitably that guy's going to get hit. And that thing that the doctor did may not matter anymore. So they've got to stop because I'm really terrified they're going to draft Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks might wind up being a great NFL player somewhere else. I just think the Cowboys can't be in a position where that running back is going to have to play a lot, that it can be a guy coming off an injury. No matter how good they think he's going to be when he heals up, they need a guy who can hit the ground at full speed running. Because that guy might get injured anyway, but at least he's healthy when it starts.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't keep gambling with a team that needs immediate help right now. But I think they do draft well. I don't love how they approach coaching. I think they could really break the bank there and find bright minds, but I get that there's just a certain amount of control that they want over that aspect of it as well. But the free agents part of it is just ridiculous. They don't do anything. They're not helping their team. And yeah, the salary cap is real. You have to pay attention to it, but it's not this, black dark cloud that's just hovering over every organization all the time. There are other organizations that have found ways to manipulate it to make it work and still have talent on their roster.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Stephen, this has been fun. Jack, excellent work today. I think the reviews are in on our new graphics and all these things. That it's something you're going to see more of. And on this show, you'll see it for the next few days. We'll be ready to shift to it on the main show, hopefully in the coming weeks. We'll see. There's a lot we have to do. But this is a nice little,
test run.
A nice little test run. Jack, how did the test run go?
I have a lot of work to do, Paul.
Jack has a lot of work to do. So it went well. So that's all I'll say. We've got to go to break. I'll tell you, you can look on the show on Twitter later because Jack's about to punch me in the kidney.
Rhett Lashley, head coach of SMU.
Yeah, Rhett Lashley, head coach at SMU. Today on 365 Sports. Bye!